What's up, guys? Welcome to the line change. Now, this is take 2. Originally, I recorded this, 10 or 15 minutes ago, like this original video, and I was about to go upload it when I noticed, I got some things wrong, and while I was recording, a new article came out regarding this topic. So I was like, well, crap, I don't want to sound like I'm wrong or whatnot. So I was like, screw it. I'm just going to redo this video with the accurate information. I mean, I was only slightly wrong about one certain thing, but I said, screw it. I'm just going to redo this video, tweak the thumbnail a little bit, and just redo it and then talk about the second article along with the original article from the original video. So that's where we find ourselves right here. But before we dive into that, I'm going to give a big thank you and shout out to my sponsor, Gassy Jack Art, maker of that incredible artwork you see there behind me. You guys can check them out yourselves at gassyjackart.com, or you can check him out on Instagram as well at Gassy Jack Art. Trust me, you're going to want to see some of the stuff he does. It's absolutely incredible. He still has his end of season sale going on, so be sure to check that out as well. Once again, gassyjackart.com. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and take a look at the original article that I was going to talk about, and a report from Frank Cervelli saying that the Vancouver Canucks have made significant progress on a extension with Conor Garland. Now, we originally did a video talking about how Garland wants to resign and he is interested in an extension. You guys can check that out right here. So we're going to go over this original article from our friends at Canucks Army, written by Tyson Cole, who goes on to say, on the eve of the 2025 NHL entry draft, Daily Faceoff's Frank Cervelli reported that the Vancouver Canucks have made significant progress on an extension with forward Conor Garland. And then this is what he said in his tweet earlier today, around, just before 4:00 p.m. Pacific time. He goes on to say, sounds like Canucks have made significant progress in extension talks with winger Conor Garland. He's not eligible to resign until July 1st, but Cervelli wouldn't be surprised to see it get over the finish line relatively shortly thereafter. And then the article goes on to, talk a little bit about Garland. Garland, 29 years old, is eligible for extension on July 1st, as we just mentioned. As he enters the final year of his contract, the former Arizona Coyotes 5th-round pick in the 2015 draft wouldn't make his NHL debut until the 2018-2019 season, making his debut in early December against the San Jose Sharks. Garland would finally find the back of the net in his 8th NHL game against the Colorado Avalanche. The American winger would spend the following 2 seasons in Arizona before he was shipped to Vancouver. On the day of the 2021 NHL draft, the Canucks packaged the 9th overall pick, which turned out to be Dylan Guenther, which is still hard to say as a Canucks fan. You can't help but think, what if we had actually kept that pick and drafted Dylan Guenther? Man, just imagine Dylan Guenther as a Vancouver Canuck. What if? And just imagine if we had Dylan Guenther playing with, EP40 and guys like Miller and whatnot. But at the end of the day, if we didn't trade that pick, we wouldn't have Garland. So it's, 50-50. It also included a 2022 second-round pick, a 2023 7th-round pick, along with 3 salary cap dumps in Louis Eriksson, Jay Beagle, and Antoine Roussel in exchange for Garland and defenseman Oliver Ekman-Larsson, who a lot of Canucks fans don't really like right now because we're still paying him, even though he plays for the Maple Leafs now. But we ended up, obviously buying out OEL, and we're still, on the books for OEL's buyout, at least for the next couple of years. And that amount of money has increased over the next couple of seasons. So our fans aren't too pleased with that. Needing a new contract, the Canucks locked up Garland shortly after the trade, signing a 5-year, $24.75 million deal worth $4.95 million per year, so just under $5 million. During his first 4 years in Vancouver, Garland has been a steady contributor, scoring a low of 46 and a high of 52 points. He has become a heavily relied upon speedy winger who can play up and down the Canucks lineup, on the power play, or in a shutdown role. This news comes one day after TSN's Darren Dreger reported that the team was making progress on an extension with goaltender Thatcher Demko, who's also available to be extended on July 1st. Kiefer Sherwood is also extension eligible on Canada Day. Yes, if you guys are interested in the Thatcher Demko stuff, you guys can find a link to it. We did a video on it. You can find it right here. Canucks haven't been too active on the transaction market outside of trading for Oilers forward Evander Kane ahead of Friday's draft, but management is busy making sure they're set up in a prime position to extend the players already on the roster come July 1st. So there was the original article talking about Frank Saravelli's report, and later on, actually, as I mentioned while I was recording my original video, our good friend of the show, David Quadrelli of Canucks Army, went out there and put up an article talking about this. And, he basically is reiterating what Frank Saravelli has said. He also talks about Rick Dhaliwal of Donnie and Dolly, mentioning that basically Dhaliwal is corroborating what Frank Saravelli is saying. And he also gives us an idea of what that extension could possibly look like. And, Quads ends up going on to say the Canucks are expected to sign forward Conor Garland to an extension that could come in at 6 years and at 6 years, $6 million annually, according to Dhaliwal of Donnie and Dolly. He goes on to show the tweet from Dolly himself saying, sounds like Conor Garland extension in Vancouver could be 6 years and $36 million. And it goes on to talk about the Frank Saravelli article and report that the Canucks have made significant progress. Goes on to reiterate some of the things that we just talked about when it comes to Garland and the Canucks acquiring Garland. Talks a little bit more about his time with the Canucks. Goes on to say, over his 4 seasons with the Canucks, Garland has proven to be a solid middle six winger, capable of driving play on his own alongside Teddy Blueger and Dakota Joshua. Garland helped form one of the most dominant third lines in the league during the 2023-2024 season. Through 321 regular season games with the Canucks, Garland has tallied 75 goals and 120 assists. Goes on to talk about Garland will be 30 years old when the extension kicks in. Here's some quick cap math on the extension with regards to how much it will take up on the Canucks' books percentage-wise. Currently, Garland's $4.95 million takes up 5.21% of the cap. When the extension kicks in for the 2026-2027 season, a $6 million AAV takes up 5.76% of the Canucks' total cap space. By year 2 of the extension, when the upper limit rises to $113.5 million, Garland's $6 million cap hit would take up 5.28%. Along with Garland, Thatcher Demko, Kiefer Sherwood, Teddy Blueger, and Akito Hirose will all be eligible to sign extensions with the Canucks as of July 1st. The Canucks are believed to be interested in extending Demko, which we mentioned, as well, according to multiple reports. So there's that updated article from our good friend Quads. And it just really makes you, obviously, my thoughts on progress being made on a Conor Garland extension. Obviously, I'm happy about that. I'm pleased with it. I mentioned in our Conor Garland video, him wanting to resign. Hearing that obviously made me happy. I've made it known on this channel that I'm a big Conor Garland guy. I love Garland. He's scrappy. He's feisty, and he's speedy, as we mentioned. He for a guy his size, he plays a lot bigger, than he actually is. You look at Garland, you see his size, And then you're like, oh, that's a scrawny little guy. He doesn't play that way. He plays like a big body. He's not afraid to throw hits. He's not afraid to get up in your face. We all saw that with him and Zegras. We saw that with him and McDavid even. He doesn't put up with crap. And he'll get in your face and tell you how he thinks and how it is. And you just love having players like that on your team. Guys who are kind of like little shit disturbers. When I think about guys like that, obviously you come to mind about Brad Marchand. If we're talking Canucks, Matt Cook. Although Cook was, I believe, a little bit bigger than Conor Garland, but you get where I'm going with that. So yeah, I absolutely would love this deal. I obviously with the cap, there's concerns about that because them having acquired Evander Kane, they only have about $7 million in cap space, and they still need to fill that second line center role. But at the same time, you can do this extension and still move pieces to alleviate the cap and make sure you're under the threshold by the time the season starts. So I'm not too concerned about how this will affect the cap. Obviously, with the cap going up over the next few years, it'll be a little better and easier to understand. I don't know if that was the right word, but at the end of the day, I'm okay with a 6x6 for Conor Garland. He's obviously shown that he's consistent. He's like a 45 plus point guy, potentially even a 50 plus point guy, and you would just love to have a guy like that on either your third or second line. You could even go as far as say he could have first line potential. Obviously he was on the first line for a little bit during this past season, but he obviously thrived on that third line with Bluger and Joshua. We saw him be on the second line a little bit. Obviously there is potential for him to move up to the first line. But obviously with the acquisition of Kane, you would think he's a bit of a shoe-in for that first line role. It could be it could be between Garland and Kane, who maybe are competing for that first line role, and whoever doesn't impress, will be on the second line. But either way, Garland's going to contribute. He's going to be a factor, maybe not necessarily an X factor, but he comes up big when he needs to. And Conor Garland is absolutely beloved by this fan base. People love Garland, myself included, and that's not even that's just based off of how he plays on the ice. The things that we've seen off the ice. He's a locker room leader. I don't know if a lot of people take notice to this, but after every game, he's usually the one standing there at the bench, fist bumping people, probably saying like great game, yada yada, and just being you see that every single game. It's Garland who is the one doing that, and that just shows his leadership, and the fact that he prides himself on being a leader. And yeah, and you love to see that type of character in a person. And I think I've said it in that previous Garland video. I would not be one bit surprised if they put a letter on his jersey. I would not be surprised if he ends up with the A. If they decide to rotate the A. Obviously with Besser being on the way out, I could see Conor Garland sliding into that. Obviously, Myers would be another, but I could most certainly see Conor Garland rocking an A for the Vancouver Canucks this upcoming season. But I'm going to know what you guys think about this potential extension, 6 years, $6 million. How do you guys feel about not just the term, but the money? Like, what are you guys okay with paying Garland $6 million per year for 6 seasons? Have you been happy, impressed with what he's contributed to the Vancouver Canucks, over the last 5 years with this team? Let me know in the comment section down below. Are you guys happy about this? Are you guys wanting this? Do you guys think they should be focusing on, team needs like a second line center, as opposed to re-signing people who are still like a year away from being a UFA? Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. And as always, if you guys like this video, be sure to hit that like button. If you want to stay up to date on all Canucks content, be sure to smash that subscribe button. I'm gonna, tomorrow is the draft. Unfortunately, I'm working, but I will do my best to get you information once I hear it. Maybe I'll do a couple of shorts. We'll see. But also make sure you turn on your notifications so you don't miss a single video. A reminder, you can find us on social media. You can find us on Facebook. Just search The Line Change to find our Facebook page. Find us on Instagram at The Line Change. You can find us on X at Line Change Fan. You can find us on TikTok at the.line.change.po. And feel free to give us a follow on all of our social media platforms. Also, if you prefer an audio version of this podcast, you can find us on both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. On Spotify, once again, feel free to give us a follow as well as rate and review us. It is greatly appreciated. But once again, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this, Conor Garland extension. First off, what do you think about, them, possibly extending him? What do you guys think about the term and the money, the 6 years, $6 million that's being, reported by Rick Dhaliwal? Are you guys okay with a 6x6 extension for a guy like Conor Garland? Do you guys want to keep Conor Garland around? I know there's been some talk about maybe using him as a trade piece to get that second line center. But yeah, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think. Hey, regardless of what happens, I'm not going to give up on this team. As I mentioned before, I think they have a plan. Hopefully we get some, big news dropping tomorrow for the draft, maybe another trade, to finally get that second line center. Like I said, I'm not ready to give up on this team. I don't know if I'll ever give up on this team, but, I bleed blue. So once again, let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about this development with Garland. And as always, I'll see you guys in the next video.